Well, another episode has been approved for public release, but just barely. Today we're going to talk about something that contractors spend a lot of time doing and almost no time questioning. We spend a lot of our time fixing things, which sounds responsible. It sounds very mature. It sounds like we're leaders, until you realize that the thing being fixed is not actually the thing that is broken. Because contractors love a good fix. We fix the form, we fix the checklist, we fix the template. We fix the file after someone notices it looks like it was assembled during an electrical fire. And then, 6 months later, the same problem comes back. Oh, a different file, a different buyer, a different subcontract, but the same little compliance raccoon digging through the procurement dumpster. And everyone acts surprised. And that's the part that gets me. Most teams are not ignoring problems. They're busy. They're creating corrective actions. They're holding meetings with titles like Procurement Process Improvement Alignment Discussion, which is corporate for nobody knows why this keeps happening, but we brought snacks. And here's the ugly truth. Most teams are not failing because they refuse to fix problems. They're failing because they keep fixing the symptom. They fix the paperwork, but not the decision. They fix the price, but not the assumption. They fix the file that got caught, but not the system that produced it. And under fixed price pressure, that mistake gets expensive really quick. Because fixed price contracting does not care that your checklist improved. It does not care that your memo was cleaner. Does not care that your new template has a charming header on it. Fixed price cares about only one thing. What did you agree to perform for the amount you agreed to accept? So today, we're talking about why your fixes do not stick. Because if you keep treating the symptoms, you're not improving the system. You're just making the damage look more organized.
This broadcast has been cleared for public release, but just barely.
Broadcasting from deep inside the Federal Acquisition Labyrinth, this is the GovCon Show. This show is for acquisition pros, wannabe pros, and procurement insiders who need a place to unpack the chaos. We speak fluent contracting and sarcasm. No clearance required. This is the GovCon Show. And away we go!
Welcome back to the GovCon Show. This is a show that provides therapy for the overworked, the overregulated, and the underappreciated. As you can tell, it's not a lecture and it's certainly not a webinar. It's just a show where we break down the realities behind federal contracting. We talk about the pressure, the responsibilities, and the decisions that actually matter. Here, nothing is off limits. And we do it all with a little sarcasm and just enough attitude to keep it real. So far this season, we've spent a lot of time talking about pressure, fixed price pressure, pricing and scope pressure, the lovely little pressure cooker that makes otherwise reasonable people say, "We'll figure it out after the award." No, you will inherit it after the award. But once contractors see the pressure, the natural instinct is to fix something. And that instinct, it's not wrong. If your files are weak, improve them. If your assumptions are missing, document them. If your reviews are sloppy, well, tighten them up. The problem is not the desire to fix. The problem is stopping too soon. Most teams fix the first thing they can see. The file's ugly, so they clean it up. The file's thin, so they add more explanation. The process is inconsistent, so we'll add a checklist. That's beautiful. It's inspirational. It's also useless. Because the visible problem is usually not the root problem. The file may be weak because the decision was weak. The price may be thin because the scope was immature. The checklist may be failing because it asks administrative questions when the real issue is a business risk issue. The symptom is where the pain shows up. The cause is where the damage starts. Symptoms are easy to spot. Missing documentation, vague assumptions, subcontract exclusions. Those are all symptoms. And they matter, but they're not always the disease, we'll say. The cause may be that your company does not have a disciplined way to decide whether or not the scope of work is suitable for fixed price in the first place, or that scope maturity is never tested before pricing starts. It could also be that the program hears customer direction and treats it as a relationship management instead of potential out-of-scope work. And nobody forces those views into the decision. The company signs up for the work. And that's how companies end up fixing 5 different symptoms that all came from the same bad decision system. Let's pick on documentation for a minute. Not because documentation is unimportant, it's very important. A clean file truly matters. A clear record of what went on really matters. But documentation has its limits. Documentation records judgment. It does not replace judgment. If the company accepted vague scope, well, a beautiful memo does not make the scope any clearer. That's your trap that you're working with. Contractors can become very good at documenting bad decisions. And that is not maturity. That is compliance theater with better font selection. So when someone says, we need better documentation, the answer may be yes, but the next question then has to be, better documentation of what? A sound decision or a weak decision that everybody was too busy to challenge? Because if the decision is trash, the documentation does not save it. It just gives the trash a table of contents. Another favorite fix is more reviews, more signatures, more people copied. Yeah, and reviews can help, but only if the review has teeth. If the review only asks, is the form complete? Then congratulations, you've reviewed the form. But you did not review the risk. If the review does not challenge assumptions, test the scope maturity, question acceptance criteria, and look at the schedule exposure, it's no more than theater. And theater is fine on Broadway. It's less fine when it's hiding inside a firm fixed price proposal. So the question is not how many people approved this. The question should be, what did approval actually mean? Did approval mean the package was complete? Or did approval mean the work was suitable for the risk being accepted? And those are not the same thing. And this matters because firm fixed price changes the cost of being wrong. Under cost type habits, uncertainty can sometimes get pushed, adjusted, or at least discussed as the work evolves. But under firm fixed price, uncertainty becomes your problem much faster. Vague scope becomes unpaid effort. Missing assumptions become lost profits. Customer delays become schedule pains. And that's why a diagnosis really matters. When a fixed price problem shows up, the first explanation is usually too shallow. Well, the price was bad. Maybe, but why? Why was the price bad? That is the conversation. If you only fix the price, you may miss the machine that created the price. And if that machine stays the same, the next proposal will produce exactly the same problem. Only this time, everyone will call it lessons learned, which is often corporate slang for, well, we saw the pothole, but we didn't repair the road. So, what should contractors do differently? Well, let's start with a better question. Not how do we fix the file? Ask what decision created the need for this file to be fixed? Not how do we make the price more defensible? Because the right fix usually lives one layer below the visible problem. If the symptom is poor documentation, the fix may be decision discipline. If the symptom is subcontract conflict, the fix may be prime to sub alignment. That is the diagnostic mindset. You're not asking what looks bad. You're asking what keeps producing the same results. And this is why we built our fixed price conversion risk assessment. Because when companies are facing fixed price conversion, restructuring, recompetes, or renegotiation, or even new fixed priced opportunities, the danger is not just one bad number. The danger is a misdiagnosis. You think you have a pricing problem, but you may have a scope maturity problem. Our diagnostic tools are designed to help contractors look below the symptom. Because before you fix the price, you need to understand the risk. Before you update your template, you need to understand the decision process. And before you add another review, you've got to know what you expect that review to catch. So go to govconadvisorygroup.com and look for the fixed price conversion risk assessment. Use it before the problem you missed becomes the problem you have to explain. Now, here's a practical takeaway. Look at your last 5 contracting problems. Not the titles, not the file names, not the corrective action logs, but dig into them to see what the actual pattern was. Were they really 5 different problems? Or were they the same weakness showing up in 5 different costumes? One called pricing, one called scope, 3 called subcontract terms. But underneath all of them, maybe the real problem was the same. The company accepted risk before it understood the assumptions. Procurement pushed risk downstream without confirming alignment. And that's the pattern. And patterns tell the truth. Individual issues can lie. Corrective actions can sound impressive. But patterns show you what your system actually does when the pressure hits. Not what your policy says it will do. What your system actually does. So let's bring this one home. Let's stop fixing the symptom. Fix the symptom when you need to. Clean up the file, update your template, fix the subcontracting language, do all of those things. But do not confuse them with solving the problem, because the symptom is where the damage becomes visible. The cause is usually earlier in the decision, in the assumptions or the handoff. The cause is in the approval that did not really approve anything except forward motion. And under fixed price pressure, that distinction matters. Fixed price turns weak assumptions into cost growth. It turns vague scope into unpaid effort and informal direction into profit damage. And it will we'll clean this up later into a very uncomfortable meeting with finance. So before you fix the next issue, stop and ask yourself, are you actually solving the problem? Or are you just making the symptom look better? That question may save your fee or profit line, and it may save your company from the most dangerous illusion in government contracting, the belief that because something was corrected, something was fixed. So run the fixed price conversion risk assessment at govconadvisorygroup.com before the symptom gets prettier and the real problem gets more expensive. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. If this episode helped you in any way, annoyed you in a particular way, or reminded you of a meeting that you're still trying to forget, do us a favor. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Hit the like button and share it with another GovCon professional who needs to hear it. As always, we're broadcasting from deep inside the Federal Acquisition Labyrinth, where getting anything done requires a map, a meeting, 3 approvals, and that guy in the background still screaming, "Let's circle back." Yes, this episode has been cleared for public release, but just barely.
If today's episode sounded a little too familiar, that's probably a sign. Until next time, keep your files tight, your logic tighter. Remember, if your compliance approach is built on checking boxes, you're building risk. We'll see you next time on the GovCon Show.
This broadcast has been cleared for public release, but just barely.